Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Literature Lovers Night Out for our special holiday edition. This program is being brought to you by Valley Bookseller in beautiful Stillwater, Minnesota. Please stop in the store on the shores of the St. Croix River, walk around this gorgeous town, see all of our beautiful boutiques and restaurants, and of course, stop in Valley Bookseller, where our wonderful staff will be so happy to help you make purchases for yourself and all your upcoming holiday needs. We are here tonight with 4 authors who have 4 really fun, warm, and wonderful Christmas books. Our special guests tonight are Kristy Harvey, Anne-Marie Ryan, Brenda Novak, and Wade Rouse, who writes under the name of Viola Shipman. Please check in the chat box and let us know what city, state, or country you're zooming in with us from tonight. We love to see how many states we can have represented, as well as any international audience is always fun. Let's get some UK support, hopefully for some other late nighters for Anne-Marie. She's joining us from London. My old high school friend from Michigan is representing Michigan, Wade. Oh, lots of
wow, this is great. Listen, everybody coming in. Oh, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That's like 40 minutes from where I am right now.
And my mom's on. Yay.
I bet my mom's on too. Oh, Charlotte. South Carolina. Hi.
Yay. California, everywhere. That's wonderful. And as a special treat tonight, the whole team from Valley Bookseller is having a very special Zoom party to celebrate the kickoff of the holiday season. I'm going to invite the team leader and hostess of the party, Delzy Hodler, to turn on her camera and microphone, because they are having an ugly party.
We are. Thank you for joining us. We're here at Valley Bookseller and we're so excited. We can't wait for the Christmas season, and come see us tomorrow. Girls,
can you each model your sweaters? Joni, stand up and let's see what you've got on.
But look at Julie.
Oh, you look like an elf there. Liz, what's Diane wearing? Wonderful. Oh, you guys really get to
we're all ready.
Wonderful. And I see you're feasting on Christmas cookies.
Yes, yes, we have Christmas cookies.
Even better. I hope other people are in. If anybody else is wearing their ugly Christmas sweater to watch the program, please put it out on social media and tag Valley Bookseller, because we would sure love to see that. Thanks, ladies. We're going to let you turn your camera and microphone off again, and we will get started with our fun program. So, as I said, we've got these 4 wonderful authors coming to us from all over the place. They're all on book tour and in far-flung locations, and we have brought them all together tonight through the magic of Zoom. Our first guest this evening is going to be my friend Wade Rouse, because this is his 3rd appearance at Literature Lovers. He has visited us both in person and virtually in the past, and tonight we are thrilled to have him here for his first holiday novel. So we will let Kristy, Anne-Marie, and Brenda turn off their cameras and microphones for the moment, and you will rejoin us later. Thank you. Now, Thanksgiving's coming up, and I know you all want to get your Thanksgiving shopping done, and what better way than to start tonight? I like to, instead of using place cards, wrap up books and put everybody's name on them and set them around the table. And then when you're trying to digest your giant feast, you can all lie around and read. And what's better than that, right, Wade?
That's a great idea.
So we are going to let Wade get started with us tonight. If you have any questions for any of our 4 authors, please just type them into the Q&A box, and we will get to them as the program goes along, as well as at the end. So Wade Rouse writes under the pen name of Viola Shipman. He has created so many charming novels, and whether you fell in love with Viola's first novel, The Charm Bracelet, or if tonight The Secret of Snow is going to be your introduction to Wade and Viola's first work, I can guarantee you're going to be back for more. In the publishing business, a short summary of an author's novel is called an elevator pitch, because it's brief enough to hear in the time it takes for an elevator ride. And Wade holds the distinction of being the one and only author to actually give me his elevator pitch in an elevator. We were at a convention and some colleagues and I happened upon Wade in the elevator, and he told us he was there to present his first novel, The Charm Bracelet. And we were all certainly charmed. He's now launching his 9th Viola Shipman novel, The Secret of Snow. So please join me in welcoming Wade to our virtual stage tonight to work some of his Christmas magic for us. Thank you so much, Wade.
Thank you. And I love that story because it's true. I mean, I really pitched her within about 15 seconds. I'm so excited to be here. I adore all of the authors that are here with us tonight, and I love Valley Booksellers. I can't tell you how much indie booksellers support all of the authors and how much they mean to us in our community. So I hope everybody will buy not only all of our books tonight, but also do your early holiday shopping as well. So I hope tonight to answer a bunch of questions. One, why I wrote The Secret of Snow, why I write the books I do, why I chose a pen name for my fiction, and why I love the holidays so much. So a lot of questions I hope will be answered over the course of the next 10 minutes. But I want to start with this. I'm deeply proud of The Secret of Snow. It's my first holiday and winter novel, and I've been humbled by the acclaim that it's received so far to date. It's been named the best book of fall by Country Living magazine. It's going to be featured in the December holiday issue of Good Housekeeping, and many reviewers are calling it a literary Ted Lasso because I tackle some very personal and emotional issues with, I hope, a lot of humor. But first, I want to answer for those of you wonder, thinking, why isn't Viola Shipman a woman sitting before me talking to you? I just want to explain briefly why I chose my grandmother's name as my pen name. I grew up in the Missouri Ozarks and in the 70s and 80s, and my grandmother and grandfather Shipman were working poor. And by working poor, I mean truly working poor. They could not rub two nickels together. My grandma Shipman was a seamstress. She stitched overalls at a factory until she couldn't stand straight. And my grandpa Shipman was an ore miner who, when that work dried up in our little town, raked rocks off of farmers' fields to make money to feed his family. He hunted and fished to put food on the table. And the story in our family goes that my grandma and grandpa Shipman had an old crock in their garage. And the old ones that were as tall as I am. And they used to throw spare change in it, a penny here, a nickel, quarter there. And over many years, that crock got full and they put it in the back of their pickup, hauled it to the local community bank, and started a college fund for my mother. And she would become the first in our family to graduate college. So that truly changed the course of my family's life. I grew up with my grandmothers. I grew up in their kitchens, watching them pull recipes from their recipe box, teaching me to bake. I grew up in their sewing rooms, watching them pull scraps to make beautiful quilts. I went to the beauty parlor with them every single Saturday to watch them get their hair did. And it's there where I heard them tell stories of their hopes and dreams and losses, all the things that they really never shared with the menfolk in their life. And all of the little things that we take for granted, the trinkets meant the most to my grandmothers. They had charm bracelets, recipe boxes. They had hope chests filled with quilts and McCoy vases and desert rose dishes. All of those things that we tend to take for granted and throw away meant the world for them. And I remember going to church and feeling the charms of my grandmother's bracelets. I knew each one by shape and feel. More than anything, my grandmother and grandfather Shipman sacrificed everything for my family to have a better life. And it's the reason that I am a writer and sitting talking to you today. I found all of my grandmother's trinkets after my mother passed away and we were working to move my father into a smaller home a number of years ago. And boxed in the attic and in the garage and in the pole barn were all of my grandmother's heirlooms. I found their charm bracelets. I found their hope chests. I found their recipe boxes. And it was at that moment that I realized that my grandma and grandpa Shipman and my grandma and grandpa Rouse were never poor. They were the richest people I'd ever known because they understood exactly what mattered most in life, what we've been reminded of the last 2 years, and that is having a roof over our heads. That's having food on our table. That's having our health and our family and friends. My grandma Shipman used to always say, life is as short as one blink of God's eye, but in that blink, we forget what matters most, and that's each other. That's the foundation of every single book that I write. And my hope has always been that in 50 years, long after I'm gone, if someone walks into a library or a bookstore and they pick up one of my novels and they say my grandmother's name, who was the least egocentric woman in the world, I always say her only demonstrable sign of ego was she vented her pie crust with an S. If they say her name, if they honor her by reading one of my novels, if they reconnect with their family in some way or ask a question of their elders, then my blank will have been worth it. So I just want to explain, it always sounds so very like a literary Victor Victoria, why a man would choose his grandmother's name to write fiction geared for women. It was a very personal and not professional decision. So for all of you grandmas out there, all of you moms and sisters, I truly hope you love my novels. Now I want to say exactly why I wrote The Secret of Snow. I'm going to give you, Pam, the elevator pitch first, and then explain a little more deeper reason. The Secret of Snow follows a 50-year-old meteorologist named Sunny Dunes, who lives in Palm Springs and knows only sunny skies, 82-degree weather, nothing bad ever happens. And she goes to work one day and finds out that the station has been handed over to a 23-year-old kid who's inherited it from his father, who's just purchased an NFL team to dally with. He fires her and wants to replace her with an artificial intelligent weather girl who he says will never age, gain weight, or renegotiate its contract. Fires her along with one of the co-news anchors. And Sunny does the only thing she can. She goes out to a bar in Palm Springs, a famed Rat Pack bar that Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin used to go to, and gets very, very, very drunk. She gets in a lift and is supposed to go home, but instead of going home at the last minute, she tells the Lyft driver to take her back to the station, where she goes on air and has a meltdown that goes viral, which she discovers the very next day when she wakes up incredibly hungover. The only station that's willing to hire Sunny back is a little station in the northern Michigan town, Traverse City, Michigan, that she ran from as a child. And she returns home, tail between her legs, and moves back in with her mother, who's based on my own mother, as you'll soon learn why, a hospice nurse, no nonsense, who thinks she's Ellen, and the two go at loggerheads with each other. Not only that, she finds out that the news director at the station is her frenemy from college, a woman she was not so kind to. And the woman not only wants to improve ratings and woo viewers, but she also wants to torture Sunny. So she throws Sunny into the snowdrift, as it were. And Sunny has to do all of the things that she hasn't experienced in about 30 years. She has to go cardboard sledding. She has to go to the Yeti Fest, which is a real thing in northern Michigan. Believe me, people get bored in the winter in Michigan and need activities to keep them occupied. She has to go ice fishing and snowshoeing. And it brings back all of these harmful memories because you come to find out that the reason that Sunny left her northern Michigan town was because she lost her younger sister when she was a little girl. And her younger sister was all things holiday. She was the queen of winter. She was the queen of Christmas. And everywhere Sunny turns and looks, she sees her sister, memories that she's never really confronted her whole life. I like to call this a love story, and all caps and 3-dimension and loads of glitter tossed on top of it, because it's a love story between a mother and a daughter. It's a love story between sisters. It's a love story between friends. And there's a beautiful romance in the novel as well, between Sunny and a man named Mason Carrier, who's the chamber director for Traverse City, who guides Sunny through all of the winter activities that she has to endure. And it's about two people falling in love, wanting to be loved, but thinking, sadly, like too many of us in this world, that they do not deserve to be loved. Now, every single novel I write starts with what I call the big question. It's a question that I'm, wrestling with, that I want to answer, that I think all of you are wrestling with and want answered. And in this case, the question kind of came in an odd way. One of my dear friends is Nancy Thayer, a New York Times bestselling author who writes about Nantucket. And she sent me a copy of her holiday novel called Let It Snow a couple of years ago. And the inscription was, "Dear Wade, why have you never written a holiday novel before?" Question mark. And that question really struck me very deeply because I knew why. And Nancy was asking because if you follow Wade Rouse or Viola Shipman on social media, you know that we are the kings of the holidays. We put up 7 themed trees and bottle brush villages and snow globe collections and 45 stockings. We're those people that you avoid in your neighborhood. That's how much I love the holidays. But it was not always that way. Because when I was a little kid, just like Sunny Dunes and The Secret of Snow, I lost my older brother. My brother Todd was my protector. He was the one that taught me to fight. He was the one that taught me to love. He was the one that meant more to me than anybody else in this world. And when he passed away, as you can imagine, it not only shattered our family, but it shattered our holidays. And I truly thought that our holidays would never be the same because my brother was the one who would go into our woods every single year, cut a pine tree down, drag it into our house, stick it in a tree stand and drench it in tinsel. And the year after he passed away, I walked in one day after school and I found my mother, who was a hospice nurse, and I found my grandma Shipman in the living room. And they had cut a tree down in our woods. They had dragged it into the living room. They put it in a tree stand and they had drenched it in tinsel. And my mother patted the shag carpet and she called me over and I sat down and she said, "Why are you trying so hard to forget about your brother? None of us should. He is the reason we are who we are. We should be celebrating his memory every single day, not trying to bury it." And that changed me profoundly. It changed my family's holidays forever. You know, my mother and grandmother were such women of faith, strength, and resilience that they taught me to stand up again. And they taught me that the holidays could still be special, even if he were no longer around, because we could celebrate his memory. And after Nancy's note, I wrote The Secret of Snow because over the last 2 years, we've lost nearly 700,000 people. People whose holidays will never be the same. People who have holes in their hearts. There will be holes under their Christmas trees. There will be empty chairs at the dining room table. And I wanted this novel to serve as a big holiday hug to all of those people out there. I wanted it to serve as a reminder to all of us to reach out to those who need it, to let them know that we care, to let them know that the memories of those we've lost can still shine as brightly as tinsel if we just don't allow those memories to fade. I wanted this book to be a holiday wake-up call for all of us, and know that we will always want the holidays to be sheer perfection and sheer joy, but sometimes, often, it's not that way for so many of us. Our holidays are not perfect. They're not always joy-filled, and it's okay to feel that. It's okay to remember those we've lost and to celebrate them. And The Secret of Snow does just that. You know, I always say a love story is the foundation of The Secret of Snow. And one of the most beautiful aspects of this book is between Sunny's mother, Patty Rose, based on my own mother, and Sunny Dunes. And it's beautiful because so much of my mother is in this novel. I remember when I was wanting to go away to college and we'd lost my brother, and I didn't want to leave my mom alone. And my mother said, "If you do not leave and you do not continue on with your life, I will never be able to either." And that is the core relationship that Sunny's mother demonstrates, just what my mother and grandmother demonstrated to me. If you love weather, if you love snow, even if you don't, this is the book for you. People always ask what I would do if I weren't an author. And number two was always I was going to be a meteorologist, because I've always been fascinated with weather. And this is a fascinating novel because Sunny approaches weather both emotionally and scientifically. And Sunny Dunes is largely based on and inspired by Ginger Z, the Good Morning America meteorologist, who, if you don't know, grew up just north of where I currently live in Saugatuck, Michigan. And we do this in Michigan. We hold up our hand. When I moved to Michigan, I always thought everybody was going to slap me. But I live here. Ginger Z grew up here, and she was fascinated by snow. She was fascinated by weather spouts on the lake. And I just truly hope all of you love this holiday novel that's meant as a hug to all of you. So I can't thank you enough for joining us, and I can't wait to hear all the other authors talk about their books as well.
Thank you so much, Wade. That was just gorgeous. And I think we're going to have to sell copies with packets of tissue.
I do have to say, this is a very uplifting, probably the funniest novel I've ever written too, because, I use humor as a way to lift people up as well. So thank you, Pam.
I love that. We have quite a few questions, but I did want to get to one before we move on. One of our guests tonight is wondering if your grandmother Shipman got to read any of your work before she passed away.
She did not get to read any of my work, but I will say this. My grandmother took me to I went to graduate school at Northwestern, and my grandmother moved me there and was so excited because Chicago was the biggest city she'd ever gone to in her life to visit. And she actually got to see my very first major magazine piece published. And I went back and I showed it. I sat her little Formica table, pink Formica table in her kitchen, and shared it with her. And she started crying and she said, "You did it. You did it." So I know she's watching from heaven, and I'm always very, very happy and humbled.
I know she's so proud of you. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank
We've
you.
got more questions, but we'll get to those towards the end of the program. So thank you very much, Wade. And we are going to invite Kristy Woodson Harvey to turn on her camera now. Hi, Kristy.
Hi.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
Kristy
having me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. Kristy's joining us from North Carolina, where she lives with her husband and son, but I believe she's visiting her parents right now. Is that correct?
I am. Well, it's lots of I'm on book tour, so it was just sort of a happy way to stop in and listening to Wade. I got to go see my grandmother today, which made me really happy. So
that's wonderful.
Nice time.
Well, we're glad to have you here on Zoom with us. Kristy Woodson Harvey is the New York Times and USA Today and Publishers Weekly best-selling author of 9 novels. She writes the Peachtree BLUFF series, and the newest installment is Christmas in Peachtree BLUFF. In this novel, 3 generations of the Murphy women must come together when a hurricane threatens to destroy their hometown and the holiday season in the process. Author Mary Alice Monroe says, "The secret to Southern charm is a compelling, beautifully drawn tale of love, hope, and small town secrets. The richly detailed backdrop of charming coastal town and the struggles and joys of 4 generations of women solidifies Kristy Woodson Harvey's spot as a rising star of Southern fiction." Kristy may be new to many of us up north here, but I think after tonight, she's going to find many new fans. We're delighted to have her bring her Southern charm and delicious peachiness to our frozen tundra of Minnesota. So thank you very much for introducing your novels to our customers at Valley Bookseller. Take it away.
Thank you. Well, thanks so much for having me tonight. I'm so excited to be here. I have had the best time being on tour for Christmas in Peachtree BLUFF. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you might have seen some of my adventures the last few weeks. We've been having a really good time, and gosh, it's just been so great to get to see people again and to be out on tour and talk about books. And it's just been a real treat. So I'm thrilled to be here tonight to talk about this book, and so grateful to everybody who helped put this together. As Wade mentioned, independent bookstores are such a backbone of what we do, and they're so important to our careers. And so we're just always really grateful. So we just ask, if you're here tonight and you want to get a book with a signed book plate, please consider, getting it here tonight, because Everyone here was so nice to put together this amazing event for us. So Christmas in Peachtree Bluff is, as Pamela mentioned, a part of my Peachtree Bluff series. I have written 4 standalone novels and a 5th coming in 2022 called The Wedding Veil. And then this is the 4th book in the Peachtree Bluff series that I was not planning on writing. And after The Southern Side of Paradise came out, it was the 3rd book in the Peachtree Bluff series, and it released in 2019. And I had a lot of questions about, was I going to continue the series? And I kept saying, no, I'm finished with the series. I had set it up that it was 3 sisters and 3 books, and the mother was sort of an overarching protagonist in all of them. And I was just finished. But 2020 entered and obviously hit us all in a little bit of a different way. And my book Feels Like Falling came out in April, right during the middle of the shutdown. And I had a book Under the Southern Sky coming out in 2021, and was working really hard on The Wedding Veil. But all of a sudden, I just started to get this huge resurgence of people asking for more Peachtree Bluff. It was like every time I opened my email, every time I went on Instagram, every time that I was doing, an event like this, people would be saying, when are you writing more Peachtree Bluff? We want more Peachtree Bluff. And I think the thing that really touched me was people saying that, during this time where things felt uncertain and they weren't sure about things and they wanted to feel warm and cozy and comfortable, that they returned to Peachtree Bluff and to the books in this series. And that just meant so much to me. But still, I thought, I'm working on The Wedding Veil. It's my first historical contemporary novel. So I was doing tons and tons of research. And I just still wasn't really sure about going back to Peachtree Bluff. But some of you, I think, are from Friends in Fiction. I've seen a lot of names popping up, but for those of you who don't know, Friends in Fiction is a group I have with fellow authors Mary Kay Andrews, Kristen Harmel, and Patty Callahan Henry. And we go live every Wednesday night on Facebook and YouTube and interview amazing author friends and just have a really good time. And so we had been doing something together during the pandemic. In addition to starting Friends in Fiction, we'd also been doing something called our morning writing sprints. And so every morning at 7 a.m. Eastern, we all got up. Poor Patty, she is central. So she was having to get up a little earlier than we were. But we would get up every morning and we would write together. And so I was actually, between that and then not traveling at all, I was finished with The Wedding Veil a little bit ahead of schedule. And the holiday season was sort of approaching and upon us. And I was feeling kind of bummed out because I thought, we're not having our huge holiday family celebrations. We're not having, our crowded parades and our busy streets. And, the Beaufort Oars in the town where I live, they aren't rowing Santa into the hot chocolate hut for us to all gather for the tree lighting and, all the things that we were used to doing because of the pandemic. And I thought, okay, if I can't have the holiday season that I wish I was having, I could always write the holiday season that I wished I was having. And I thought, if I'm going to write a Christmas book, where would I want to set it? And Peachtree Bluff was the very obvious answer. And so I'd had this other idea sort of brewing in the back of my mind. I live in Beaufort, North Carolina, as I sort of mentioned there a second ago, which is the inspiration for the town of Peachtree Bluff. And a few years ago, Hurricane Florence swept through and did a lot of damage to our town and our house. Actually, we were out of our house for about 18 months. And so I'd spent a lot of time, living through the aftermath of a hurricane and sort of rebuilding a town and a home. And I knew what that was like. But I kept wondering what it would be like to be one of the people who was left on the island, one of the people who didn't evacuate like we did. I don't know if this means anything to you, but it made me, Wade, this is another tie in here, but he was talking about, snow and weather and meteorology. And for me, when Hurricane Florence was coming, when Jim Cantori came to town from the Weather Channel, like we knew we were out. He actually makes a little cameo appearance in this book. But, we had so many friends that were left behind and who decided to stay and kind of ride out the hurricane. And they were stuck on that island for a very, very, very long time, like a couple of weeks. And I just was really interested in that. And I had known that, that would make a really good Peachtree Bluff book, but I wasn't going to write any more Peachtree Bluff. So I thought, well, what if I took this hurricane story that I had and this Christmas story that I kind of want to write, and I put them together, and I had a late season hurricane heading to Peachtree Bluff at the same time. The whole Murphy family with all of their, children and grandchildren and everyone in tow is heading back to Peachtree Bluff as well. And so in this story, Caroline, Caroline, who is the eldest daughter, her daughter, Vivi, gets to actually be a protagonist of this story, which was really fun for me to get to write a 15-year-old girl. And if you've ever been around a 15-year-old girl, you know that they can be a little surly. And Vivi is just not happy with her mother at this particular moment. And so Caroline asks her mother, Ansley, if she will keep Vivi, just for a few weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas. She can do online school and, none of that's really a problem. And so Ansley, being the doting mother and grandmother that she is, says, of course she will keep Vivi. She would love to. And Vivi's bad behavior ends up getting herself and her family stuck in Peachtree Bluff during the storm of the century. And it is up to Sloan, Caroline, and Emerson to not only rescue their family, but also to put Peachtree Bluff back together again, just in time for Christmas. So it's a really feel good story. And, but there's also, each of these women, if you've read the series, they each have their own really specific dramas and situations going on that they're, trying to solve throughout the course of this book. But if you have not read the series, a couple of years have elapsed, and you can definitely read it as a standalone if you need, a good feel good, holiday read. But, I wasn't sure my publisher was going to go for it because I had said many, many times that I was finished with the Peachtree Bluff series. So I went on Facebook and I sort of crowdsourced this book. I went on and I said, who wants to go back to Peachtree Bluff for Christmas? And, a lot of people responded. It was my most popular Facebook post I've ever had. And I sent it to my publisher along with my story idea and said, what do you think about Christmas in Peachtree Bluff? And they said, when can you turn it in? So this was it was such a fun book for me to write. It made me so happy during that sort of darker holiday season of 2020. And I hope that it brings everybody out there a lot of joy this year.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Christy. Someone had asked whether you could read it as a standalone, so that's good to know. Now, the rest of your Peachtree Bluff series, is that best read in order?
I think so. It starts with Slightly South of Simple, and then The Secret to Southern Charm, and then The Southern Side of Paradise. And I've been telling people, if you're a real serious person and you want to kind of know a lot of background before you dive in, you can read Slightly South of Simple. There's a sort of a family secret that unravels throughout Slightly South of Simple. Then you could dive straight into this one. So, but again, plenty of people have read it as a standalone, and I think it's just
Valley Bookseller will be more than happy to get everybody their copies of Slightly South of Simple as well, and also include one of Christy's signed book plates. We have signed book plates from all the authors, so they will be automatically included with your purchase until we run out. So shop early. So makes your gifts extra special to have it signed by the author. Yes, great. Thank you so much, Christy. We will say goodbye to you for a moment and have you tune back in at the end. And I will invite Anne-Marie Ryan to join us. Anne-Marie wins the prize for staying up the latest. She is in London, where it is 11:30 now.
No, 12:30. 12:30
now. Okay, 12:30 now. So, well, thank you for staying up past bedtime to join us. We really appreciate it. Anne-Marie is by day a book editor at Hachette's Children's Books in the UK and has written and published children's books under several pseudonyms. Maybe she will tell us who she is in another life. She lives in London with her husband, 2 daughters, and I am told she has an indifferent cat, but now also has some kittens. Does that make 3 cats now?
Actually, unfortunately, I just have the kittens. Our indifferent cat sadly passed away in the spring.
I'm so sorry. That's really hard. So, well, I'm glad you have the kittens now to cheer you up. So, Christmas by the Book is her first novel for adults. And like all the books tonight, it's in a friendly paperback format, which tucks nicely right into the top of those stockings. Or if you're like me, at my house, I like to do book on a bed, which is where you wrap them up and you run around, because at my house, I'm the first one in bed. So I put them on everybody's bed. So when they go to bed that night, they all have something good to read. So a little Christmas Eve treat. So this novel has been called a lovely Christmas tale for book lovers because it's set in small town England with 2 booksellers facing tough times who decide to spread some Christmas cheer through the magic of anonymous book deliveries. Who wouldn't love that? Christmas by the Book is a love letter to the transformative power of reading, and it's perfect for fans of the storied life of A.J. Thickery and the Little Paradise Paris Bookshop, both of which I have loved and enjoyed for years. My friend Louise Miller, who is a past Literature Lovers attendee, she wrote the Baker's Guide to Country Living and the Late Bloomers Club, said, like all of our most beloved Christmas stories, Anne Marie Ryan's big-hearted Christmas by the Book weaves together a tale of hope, community, friendship, and love. It's a warm reminder that real miracles happen when everyday people show up for each other. Best of all, it's a celebration of books. Who doesn't love that? Please welcome Anne Marie Ryan from the UK to our virtual stage tonight here with Valley Bookseller. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I told the others before we started that this is my first event for Christmas by the Book, and I'm just so excited. So yes, this is my love letter to independent bookshops, just like Valley Bookseller, and to all the booksellers who work at them and love literature as much as I do, and I'm sure as much as all of you watching do. So yes, I work as an editor in a publishing house, and I have one of the best jobs ever because I get to make books by day, and I also have been writing children's books for a long time under pseudonyms, a whole variety of them. So Christmas by the Book was a big deal for me for two reasons, because I was finally writing for adults and also writing under my own name. So I still can't get over the fact that it's my name on the cover. It's beyond exciting, but it was also pretty scary because writing children's books is sort of like doing sprints. And when I came to write a novel, it was a bit like running my first marathon. They take so much longer to write. But I think it wasn't as different as I thought it might be writing for an adult audience, because ultimately we all love a good story. And I personally love a happy ending. So I think of Christmas by the Book as kind of a fairy tale for grown-ups. And when I was deciding what subject matter I wanted to write about for my first adult book, the obvious thing to write about was something that I know a lot about and is really close to my heart. And of course, that's books. So Christmas by the Book is about a happily married couple, Nora and Simon Walden. Even their name is inspired by books, because although I live in the UK now, I grew up in Massachusetts. And I remember as a kid going to my local branch of Walden Books and spending hours browsing the children's section. So their name was a little hint to the Walden Books chain of the past. But the Stowford Bookshop, which is in the Cotswolds, which is a beautiful region in the southwest of England, is sort of at the very heart of its community. It has a toddler story hour and a book club, and it's sort of a combination of all my favorite bookshops in the world. I'm really lucky that here in London, I live about a 10 minutes walk from a wonderful independent bookshop. But in my childhood, my very favorite bookshop was the Andover Bookshop in Massachusetts, which is the oldest bookshop in the United States. And like the bookshop in Christmas by the Book, it had a roaring fire with a sofa in front of it where you could sit and browse through your books. And they always had a plate of ginger snaps. And so that has made it into Christmas by the Book at their bookshop. There is also a plate of ginger snaps by the fire. So writing Christmas by the Book was my way of indulging my fantasy of what it would be like to own a bookshop. So the Stowford Bookshop is a warm and welcoming place, but over the years, online competition and high business tax rates have meant it's really struggled to stay afloat. And Nora has been burying her head in the sand about the financial problems that they're facing. She doesn't want to stress her husband out because he's had some heart problems in the past. So she has sort of concealed the amount of debt they're in. And in the run up to Christmas, She knows that if they don't have a really good Christmas season, the bookshop isn't going to be able to operate for another year. And this is really devastating to her because her mother opened the bookshop in the 60s, and it's always been in the family. It's where she was raised, in the apartment above the bookshop. And it's basically, it is so dear to her heart. So it isn't looking good for them. But then one day, an elderly man comes into the bookshop, and he's looking for a book for his grandson who is in the hospital. And Nora hand sells him the book that's been in the bookshop for the longest time. And this gives her some hope, because she never expected to sell this book, and it finally finds its perfect customer. And she and Simon that evening decide that they want to spread some hope in their local community. So they run a competition and ask people to nominate other people in the village that they think could use cheering up over the festive season. So they get the names and draw out 6 anonymously. And the recipients of their books are Olwen, who's a retired teacher who's struggling to know what to do with her life. She desperately misses school. She misses the children that she taught. And she also secretly harbors a desire to write a book herself. So Olwen's based a bit on my mother, who's a retired teacher, and also my husband's mother, who is a retired teacher. So I have a lot of teachers in my life. Both my parents were teachers. And so Olwen is close to my heart because she is so dedicated to her job that retirement has been a struggle for her because she doesn't know what to do with this next chapter of her life. Another recipient is Will. He's a single dad who recently lost his job, and he's really worried about providing for his 6-year-old twins and making sure that they have a wonderful Christmas. But he also doesn't have a job. There's Jazz, who is a high-flying management consultant in London, but she's returned to her parents' house in this little village because she split up with her boyfriend. She's a bit of a Scrooge. She doesn't really like Christmas. And ironically, the book that she gets sent anonymously is A Christmas Carol. We also have Mateo, who's an American. He's an actor, and he came to the UK to try to, he came for drama school and to, make his way on the stage. But unfortunately, he hasn't had much luck with auditions, and he's instead working at the local pub. Another recipient is David, the controversial local MP, who's secretly battling depression. And Harry, who's a teenager, and he gets a copy of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And he is mourning the loss of his sister, who was killed in a car accident the summer before. So this is the first Christmas without her. So as the story unfolds, we see how the books that each of these 6 people receives helps them through a really difficult time. Along with the books, Nora and Simon also send them an invitation to their Christmas Eve party, which might be their last ever Christmas Eve party at the bookshop. I don't want to spoil the ending, but basically, they all meet at the party and their lives are transformed by each other and the books they received. And the bookshop's fortunes are also transformed. But like all the best Christmas stories, Christmas by the Book has a happy ending and reminds readers that books have the power to bring people together, and that small kindnesses can make a really big difference in someone's life. That's certainly true of myself. When I was having a difficult time a couple of years ago, a very good friend of mine who lives in New York knew I was struggling, and she really loves to knit. And she knit me a tiny little leprechaun about this big. And she also sent me a parcel of books. And just that unexpected gesture of kindness was like getting a hug, as Wade said. It's like getting a hug in book form. So I really wanted to address mental health in my book. So although Christmas by the Book is really uplifting and warm and happy and packed with snow and gingerbread and Christmas trees and all sorts of like holiday joy, it also tackles some really difficult subjects like grief and unemployment and depression. And I did want to tackle those things because although Christmas is a wonderful time of year, it's also a really hard time of year, especially if you're alone. Like my American character in the book, my first few Christmases in England, I couldn't afford to travel back to the US. And I remember missing my family so much. And Christmas here in the UK felt different to Christmas in the United States. And it was really hard. I wanted to talk about male mental health as well, because someone really close to me struggles with depression. And I wanted to write about how it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. That was really important to me, to encourage people to talk openly about when they need a helping hand and to reach out to other people. So I think the most important message in the book is just that small kindnesses can make a really big difference. So for me, I'm overjoyed that this book is out and finding readers, but the thing that would make me happiest if someone who read my book, if it inspired them to give a book to someone else as a pick-me-up. So that would, for me, be a sign that my book has reached someone. So yeah, I think it's just amazing. And if you do decide to give a book to someone this Christmas season, please do it from Valley Booksellers.
Oh, thank you, Anne-Marie. That was just gorgeous. Let's see, there's 140 people watching right now. I think you may have just sold 140 copies, so we're fine with that. We did have a couple of questions. One guest is wondering if your book is available on audiobook.
Yes, it is.
It is wonderful. And then someone else is wondering if you have a favorite bookstore or a store you can recommend in London where you like to shop for books.
I do like to shop at my local one is called Pitshanger Bookshop. But if you were visiting London, I would say a great one to visit would be Foyles.
Oh, yes. Big one. Yep. Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Or Daunt Books as well in London is wonderful.
Great. Thank you. Well, of course, whenever you're in Minnesota or just across the bridge in Wisconsin, please pop into Stillwater and visit Valley Bookseller. We have a staff of a dozen women who will be more than happy to help you find just the right book. And if that just happens to be Christmas by the Book or another one of our featured titles tonight, we'll be more than happy to stick that signed book plate in there as well. So thank you so much for sharing your story, Anne-Marie. That's gorgeous. I know you've got
Thank you for having me.
tonight. Thank you. We are going to move right along to our next guest, who is Brenda Novak. Brenda, welcome. There she is.
Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Hello. I hope you've all noticed everyone's festive attire tonight. Brenda has on her beautiful sweater vest for the holidays, and I didn't have a sweater, so I borrowed my husband's ugly tie, and it's supposed to. Oh, the music's dying, but it made music. But welcome, Brenda. Brenda Novak is the best-selling author of, you're going to gasp, 60 novels. Unbelievable. She's an 8-time Rita nominee. She's won the National Reader's Choice Award, the Bookseller's Best, the Silver Bullet, the Book Buyer's Best, the Daphne, and the Holt Medallion. Brenda has known all about romance because she married the love of her life and had 5 children. That is true romance. Brenda also hosts an online book group that has over 10,000 members who meet regularly to discuss books. I hope she'll share some information about that if some of you would like to join. Her most remarkable achievement of all, however, it may be the charity Brenda Novak for the Cure, which has raised more than $2.5 million for diabetes research. That is just amazing, Brenda. Thank you. This holiday season, Brenda has graced our readers with Keep Me Warm at Christmas, about a house sitter and her handsome new roomie. You can start swooning now. So welcome, Brenda Novak. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for the shout out for Brenda Novak's book group on Facebook. We're actually over 22,000 members now. So we have just exploded. And I see so many names that I am familiar with from the book group in our audience tonight. So I want to thank everybody for joining me. And I enjoyed listening to these other authors so much. What an appropriately named novel, Anne-Marie. I mean, that's what I kept thinking throughout as you were telling the story. So I'm very excited to try that one. I haven't tried it yet. So I'm definitely going to grab that tonight. And I really love Wade's novel. I've already read that and I cannot wait to try Kristy's. So I'll be in line to purchase those books too. Anyway, you mentioned that I'm in my Christmas attire. I actually I'm in a hotel. We had a death in the family, so I've been traveling. And of course, travel always happens when you have events. So luckily these are virtual, so I've still been able to attend, but I'm having to do so in a hotel, which doesn't have a lot of light. So I've been watching the sun slowly go down, thinking I'm going to be sitting here in the dark pretty soon. So hopefully you can still see me and my tacky Christmas sweater that my wonderful husband went out to the thrift store today to buy. And he thought he was doing me a great favor because he said, I got the vest because then if you get hot, you can take it off. And I'm thinking, but I don't have a closet to have anything to put on underneath it. I only have a suitcase. So I came up with this. And if you saw the bottom of it, it's kind of like this midriff I work out in. So it's kind of hilarious with this sweater vest. But anyway, at least it's a tacky Christmas sweater, just like we're supposed to be wearing tonight. So I managed to pull that off despite the travel and despite being in Vegas in a hotel room. Also, I'm actually on almost 70 books. Keep Me Warm at Christmas, I think, is number 70. It's hard to count them because you never know, do I count the novellas? Do I count the short stories? So I lose track when I do this many. I never had any idea that I would become a writer. So to look back and see that I've done 70 books. I am personally amazed just because, like I said, I thought I was going to go out in business. I thought I was left-brained and I never thought I had a creative bone in my body. I was working as a loan officer, trying to do loans and help my husband with a business that he was really struggling with. He had started his own residential development business and he was just working night and day and I was trying to help. And we had 3 of our 5 kids when I caught my daycare provider drugging our children with cough syrup to get them to sleep all day while I worked. So it was one of those horrible mother guilt things that I just immediately quit my job without even realizing, well, how are we going to get by without this income? But I knew I could not risk them again. And this had been a woman that I really trusted. She was in a part of our church. She came over after hours and she hung out with us and she spent a lot of money that we paid her on the kids, although I told her not to do that. So I thought she really loved them. And I had no idea that she would endanger them. So anyway, that was a hard thing that we went through, but the silver lining was it helped me find writing. And how it did that was I was just, like I said, going through a really dark time and my sister sent me a book. So those book gifts do make a huge difference. This is another story that parallels what Anne-Marie was saying because I read that book. It was Jude Devereaux's Knight in Shining Armor. And many of you have probably read that. It's an iconic romance novel, time travel. And I just devoured it. And I remember closing the book thinking, oh, you can write from home. I wonder if I can do this. So the very next day, I started out that I was going to write a historical novel because Jane Eyre had been the book as a young girl that had developed my love for reading. So I wanted to write an English historical, but this is before the internet had all the wonderful research resources that we have now. So I would have to wait until my husband could get home from his very long day, shove what kids were not asleep at him, dash down to Sac State because it was the only library extensive enough to have the books I needed to research not only how to write a book, but the entire era that I was writing in, which was so foreign to what we live in today. So anyway, I would stand at the copier and pump any nickels and dimes we had into that copier to be able to get enough material to go home. Because if I took home all the separate books, I couldn't carry them all the way out to my car. So I would get enough to research the next day, and that would enable me to write. And I finished my first book. It wasn't the quick fix we were hoping for. It took me 5 years because I had 2 more kids in between that to teach myself myself the craft and finish that first manuscript. But I was lucky enough to sell it to HarperCollins. So it's also kind of a full circle thing that HarperCollins bought Harlequin, and I'm actually now back with HarperCollins again. So Keep Me Warm at Christmas is actually the 9th book in my Silver Springs series, but it can easily be read as a standalone. What I love about this series is that almost any one of them can, simply because the continuity element is New Horizons Boys Ranch, which is a ranch for, or a school for troubled boys at first, and then they develop another girls side. And so the main character, Ayana, who started the school, is this very benevolent, wonderful woman who has adopted many of these troubled boys. And I've had such a great time writing each of these boys, who are now men, their story. I don't know about you guys, but I love a tortured hero. And I guess I must love to fix things, and I like to put order to things. And so when I work with characters who are damaged, I just love finding a way to bring them happiness. And every good romance novel has a happy ever after. So to me, it's just more hard. The more hard fought it is, the more enjoyable it is at the end. So this particular story is about one of Ayana's son. His name is Seth. He is a damaged character. He is, not only did he have a very difficult childhood, he finally gets over it. He becomes this world famous artist. He's just talented naturally. And he finds this woman that fills that hole in his heart. And he's so in love, he gets married, and then he loses her to a really freak thing. I won't give away what it is, but it is a real thing, but it's something that you would never think you'd have to worry about, never be concerned about. When she calls to tell him what's happened, and he would have done something immediately had he realized there was real danger. And of course, he ends up losing her. So he's a widower at the beginning of the story. And he and the heroine are both two characters who are not wanting to face Christmas. They have had, he lost her near Christmas. He doesn't even want to face the holidays. So we have two damaged characters, because then the heroine is a starlet who has just hit it big. She has had her first blockbuster movie come out, and the paparazzi and everybody's after her. She's the new hottest thing, when she gets in this terrible, tragic car accident. Fortunately, she survives it, but it creates a huge scar and disfigures her face. And it just comes at such a terrible time, right when she thinks her A-lister dreams are on fire and she's on her way, and this acting career she's always dreamed about is going to take off. She thinks it's been immediately derailed. And so she is looking for a place to just lie low for the holidays too. So when her producer invites her to come house sit at his big, gorgeous mansion in Silver Springs, which is loosely based on Ojai, California. For those of you who are familiar with that area, it's just gorgeous. She jumps at the chance. She thinks this will be a great place that she can hide out. She doesn't have to face anybody. Nobody can see her. The paparazzi will not get us to snap that first, picture of her face that everybody's dying to see what happened to her, whether she'll act again. So she stays in the little guest house because it's smaller and more comfortable. And she thinks she's going to be the only one on the property for the holidays, until she realizes that Maxie, her producer, has also invited another person to come and escape to Silver Springs and stay in the main house. So I really loved throwing these two characters together. I loved watching them heal. I feel as though this novel is one of those novels where, like I said, by the end, you feel great because you've seen them conquer so much. And, it deals with themes of what's superficial and what's truly meaningful, and how do you find happiness despite tragedy. And Tia comes from a very restrictive background, which is why she didn't go home to recuperate. She's sort of been running from that from the beginning. She doesn't fit in. She's not like them, not like her family. They've judged her, and she feels, just off on her own. So to find Seth and to teach him that love is possible yet again was a wonderful thing to do. So I just really enjoyed writing this story. I felt like it's one of my warmest Christmas stories, and it's been fun to see some of the reader feedback. It came out a month ago, and so I appreciate everybody who has supported the book, of course, and just feel as though I'm sad to let Silver Springs go. Maybe I won't totally let it go. There's always another book in there maybe later that I'll be able to do. But anyway, thank you so much for hosting this and for supporting, and those of you who have come for supporting the indies. I really feel like, we don't want to lose them. And if you vote with your money, so we get to keep what we spend our money on. So definitely don't want to lose the indies.
No, we do not. Thank you so much, Brenda. I think you're going to have a lot of fans of Keeping Warm at Christmas this year. So it makes a wonderful gift for yourself or for anybody else that you want to share a special signed copy of a wonderful book with. I thought for fun tonight that we would have, we're almost out of time, but we're going to have a quick lightning round where each of the authors gets to ask the other author a question. So we'll have everyone about the authors turn their cameras back on again. And we are going to start with Wade. Wade gets to kick off by asking Kristy a question. So let's hear what we're
Terrifying.
dying to know.
I'm so excited. I didn't set this up. Okay, I have a quick twofer for you, Kristy.
Okay, I'll be fast.
So, I want to know, because I've never written a series. I want to know, especially for a holiday, writing a holiday book for a series, if you continued to take notes over time as though you were kind of keeping up with your family, or if you started it fresh. And then my second part is, many readers don't understand that when we write our holiday novels, it's often in the heat of summer, or sometimes it's not winter. I wonder if you do anything to spark the holidays.
Okay, these are great questions. So to answer the first question, no, I mean, I hadn't really planned on, coming back to the series. So I did fast forward in time. Like the last one came out in 2019. This is 2021, although I avoided some key events that I did not want to speak of, but that is fast forwarded in time. So it was just like coming back to like a really good friend that you haven't seen in a couple of years, and you sit down and you catch up and you're like, oh, I remember that. This was so fun. This was so great. So it really was a joy to write. And actually, I wrote this during the holiday season, which was so fun. The timing worked out really, really well. I was able to write it, in December and January, when I was actually, we were having cold weather, and I was wishing that we were, doing all of these fun holiday things. So I didn't have to do too terribly much, although, I was envisioning a lot of the celebrations that we were not having. So there was something like that, but I had the house decorated absolutely to the nines, and the Christmas music blaring 24/7, and anything I could do to make it like, yes, Christmas.
Thank you. I love that.
That was great. Kristy, it is now your turn to ask Anne-Marie Ryan a question.
So Anne-Marie, congratulations on, not your debut, but your debut novel, which is so, so, so exciting. And I am just so interested in how you made the shift from, writing children's books to writing this novel. And are there any things that overlap for you? Were there things about writing children's books that helped you in writing a novel?
Yes, I definitely think there are. I think what I loved is having Christmas by the Book has multiple points of view in it. And often for the younger age that I write for, you normally stick with one point of view throughout. So my favorite thing was the fact that I got to explore lots of different characters and write from different characters' points of view. So that was really exciting and freeing. But I think the pace of children's books, like a story needs to move along at a good clip. And I think that training really helped me, because I think, adults like a pacey story as well. So I think writing for kids who have a lot less patience than adults was probably quite good training for writing novels for adults. So yeah, it was very different, but I think it was there are more things in common than there are differences.
Good book is a good book for everyone. So I love children's literature. I read it all the time. So what is one of your children's titles we should look for, Anne-Marie?
Well, I write a series about a pug called Peggy, and I write that as Bella Swift.
Oh, great! I have 4 pugs who live next door to me, so that's good to know.
I think in the U.S. they're published by Source Books.
Great. Okay,
yeah,
wonderful. Thank you. And Anne-Marie, it's now your turn to ask Brenda a question.
Okay, Brenda. I actually wanted to ask you about kids' books as well, because you mentioned you had kids. And I wondered if there are actually either children's books or adult books that are your go-to Christmas presents. If you are gifting books, what are your favorite books to gift?
Oh my goodness. I have a granddaughter now, when she is just, of course, everything to me. And I have a little grandson as well. So it's always fun to go and pick out the new books. And the one that lately, it's What to Do with an Idea. That series has been the latest thing that I've hit on and love reading to her. Have you read that one yet? Oh, it's clever. I think it's very clever. I wish I had written it. But speaking of children's book, I was excited that you read both, because I've actually written a children's book. I haven't done anything with it, and it hasn't been a priority, but I sent it around to my family and said, I don't know why, I just got this wild hair. I want to write this children's book. What do you think of this? So it was kind of fun to dabble in something a little different. And I think that your answer about pacing was so clever. It's so true. You have to, every word matters in a children's novel. Every single word has to be purposeful. And I think that sometimes with novel writing, it's easy to wax, long, and at least I tend to. I write long, and then my editor's really great about trim, 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 trim.
Thank you. Well, Brenda, I hope you'll make that children's book a priority in 2022, because I would love to see it.
Thanks.
And now, Brenda Novak, it is your turn to ask Wade Rouse, Viola Shipman a question.
Oh, I adore Wade. Okay, that'll be easy then. Wade, I once heard a talk by Susan Elizabeth Phillips where she talked about every author has a core story. And it got me thinking about, what is my core story? What theme pops up again and again and again in my books? And I know that you have a theme that pops up often in your books. I thought you might like to tell us about it.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, it's the foundation of family, memories, our histories. My big thing is we don't know who we are without where we've come from. And I feel like that connecting the dots with our past to our present is important, and I love to explore. I love heirlooms, of course, and talking about the traditions and family that we too often take for granted. And I would say another theme is, Brenda, and we've talked a lot about this, it's a great question, is, when I was in college and in lit class and got all this syllabus from my professors, it was all men writing about war, and I was the kid that loved Irma Bombeck growing up, and I was like, where are books about women written by women? So all of my novels really are geared around characters that are inspired by my mom and my grandmothers, just good, hardworking, decent women that get knocked down by life and try to stand up and go on with as much resilience as they can. That's a great question.
Awesome.
And I love your sweater.
Even better answer.
I love your sweater.
Thank you.
I think you all look
Awesome.
quite
Good after
stylish
this.
tonight. Thank you for that. Well, I want to thank our 4 special guests this evening: Brenda Novak, Wade Rouse, Anne Marie Ryan, and Kristy Woodson Harvey, for joining us this evening for this incredibly special event. We had such a big audience, so it's wonderful to see this enthusiasm for holiday books. And I think there's going to be a lot of books under the tree and in stockings and on beds this holiday. Don't forget, signed book plates are available at Valley Bookseller, where you shop in the store or if you shop online tonight. We're all happy to tuck those in until they're all gone. And as a special treat this evening, each of the 4 authors has generously donated a gift certificate from Valley Bookseller. Tomorrow, the staff will be drawing names from everyone who registered for the program, and will be notifying the 4 winners that they have a gift certificate waiting for them at the store. You can use that online or in the store itself to do some holiday shopping or get yourself a special treat. That is a wonderful thing, and thank you all 4 of you so much. That is just incredibly generous. We are so grateful to you at the store. I hope that if you are local, either in Wisconsin or Minnesota, you will come and join us in Stillwater on November 16th, when we're presenting a live event with author Jenna Blum and her Labrador Retriever, Henry. Jenna has published a new memoir. She's the best-selling author of Those Who Save Us. This memoir is called Woodrow on the Bench, about her late Black Labrador and how he became just a real sense of community and created this friends and family for her. It's a beautiful memoir. It's a family-friendly show. It's a great holiday book. Anyone who's a dog lover or a memoir lover is going to want a copy of this. And I promise you, you will not be left in just a puddle of tears. It's so wonderful and uplifting, and everybody who loves dogs is going to want a copy. I'm buying a case. So I hope you'll join us November 16th. Tickets are online at www.valleybookseller.com. While you're online tonight, you can get copies of these books from all 4 authors. Get those early shopping done. You've all heard about the supply chain troubles. We have stock at Valley Bookseller right now, sitting on the shelf, and we will be happy to send those out to you until they are gone. So thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for supporting these 4 fine authors and for supporting a local independent bookstore like Valley Bookseller. Only with your support can we continue to bring you virtual and live programming. And we're so grateful to you for helping us keep the doors open, especially during these difficult times of COVID. And a book, as you know, is a great comfort. And there's nothing like a holiday book to cheer you up and help you prep for the holidays. So much better than turning on that Hallmark channel, right? Thank you, one and all. Brenda, Wade, Anne Marie, Christy, thank you. I'm so grateful to you for so generously sharing your time. Anne Marie needs to get to bed because it's super late in London. I hope you all have a very happy holiday season. So happy reading to all, and to all a good night. This program's been recorded and will be available on social media tomorrow. Check the authors' Facebook pages, the Valley Bookseller page, or the Literature Lovers Night Out Facebook page, and you can relive the magic. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you for tuning
Happy
in.
holidays.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank
It
you.
was so much
Thank
fun.
you. Thanks for
Thank you.
coming. Anne Marie, still so far away.
Yeah, it's all right. It was a pleasure.
Good night, everyone.
everybody.
Good night.
Thank you
Night.
to our
Thank you.
audience.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye. Great to see you
Bye.
all. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.